Today is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. My name is Benton Graham. I'm interviewing Gilberto Cárdenas for the Center for Mexican American Studies Oral History Collection. We're at the CMB on the University of Texas at Austin campus. Thank you, Dr. Cárdenas, for agreeing to this interview. We want to ensure that you understand that this interview will be recorded, that raw, unedited video and any photos and materials you provide to us for scanning will be part of the Center for Mexican American Studies, or CMAS's archives at the Nettie Lee Benson Latin American Collection on the UT Austin campus. They will also be available online. If at any time you need to stop the recording, please let us know. We want you to be comfortable with this process, and it is a partnership between you and I. So if there's something you do not wish to discuss, let me know. But if there's something that I'm not asking about that you do want to talk about, also let me know about that. So with that said, if you could just say, for the record, my name is and your hometown.
Okay, so we have 3 days to do this?
We have 4. Yeah.
Thank you for asking me. Yeah, my name is Gilberto Cárdenas, and I was born in Los Angeles, California. I live here in Austin, Texas, and I'm happy to be here for the oral history.
Thank you again. Yeah, and do you mind also saying when you were at UT and the years you were the CMAS director?
Yes, I came to the University of Texas, Austin, in 1975. I started first by coming to a conference 2 years prior and met people in sociology, and they invited me to come for an interview, job interview. I hadn't finished my dissertation, but I came, and happily they gave me an interview and wanted to hire me. I accepted it, so I wasn't ready to leave Notre Dame at the time, but that I would come in, maybe the year after, I can't recall the exact timing. And so ended up joining as assistant professor in sociology in 75 and moved here in August of 75 and stayed here till 1999 teaching sociology, international migration, my area of specialty, and also teaching courses on visual sociology, exploring society photographically, documentary photography. So that kind of got me into the art world in a different way. I wasn't looking initially as art, but looking at it more as documentary work, and got into the lab and had a lab of my own, things of that sort, black and white, and so that got me interested in the arts and in a general way, more so than I ever expected it to.
Do you remember who those people were that helped recruit you to UT initially?
Jorge Bustamante was a former student at the University of Notre Dame in sociology also. He put my name in, and he has passed away last year, sadly, but became a very profound and important scholar in Mexico, and really was politically connected, and started the Centro de Estudios Fronterizos in Mexico, in Tijuana. And it's a big complex now, university complex. And I helped him over the years. I go back and forth from Austin to Tijuana to help him in a variety of ways. I miss him, but he was, I think, the main connection. There were other people who were here teaching, the names of which I can't remember everyone. Yeah, I'm very sorry.
But Jorge Bustamante was the kind of
the main one, yes.
person.
And so I got invited to a workshop of sorts, and then I met some of the faculty, and I guess they in turn talked to other faculty. So they had a job opening, and they asked me if they could put my name in. I said, well, go ahead. And it all worked out nice.
And that was before, and you said that was before you had finished your dissertation?
Yes, I finished it the year after.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your dissertation on?
On international migration from Mexico.
Okay.
Our professor at Notre Dame, Julian Zamora, very prominent person, had grants from Ford Foundation and other funders to study the border in a variety of ways, to look at migration, to look at settlement, the border area, both sides, on a whole range of questions on the border. And He had us go down to the border in a variety of capacities to observe, to interview Border Patrol agents, to go to the Border Patrol training station, to go to the small prisons, and to talk to undocumented immigrants who were captured or unapprehended. And even to cross the border, we got permission from the Commission of Immigration to cross. They wanted to know when and where. We never told them. And we crossed. He ended up getting caught and removed. It's called voluntary departure. And I didn't. I was able to run faster and not get caught. But and I had to keep quiet because my first language is English, second language is Spanish. And so when we contracted smugglers and contractors, things of that sort, I had to be quiet, moot, like I couldn't speak. Mm-hmm. And so it worked out really well. One of the chapters in the book, Los Mojados, was one that he wrote about the crossing and things of that sort. And then I did another chapter, and then we worked on different parts of the book. And so our professor gave us co-authorship of it. Julian Zamora, Jorge Bustamante, and Gilberto Cárdenas, published in 1970 or 71, I can't recall. Yeah.
Sounds like your research is still relevant 50 plus years later.
That's right. It's so sad. We testified before the Rodino Committee when he introduced legislation to penalize employers for knowingly hiring undocumented immigrants. And we testified in Chicago before the subcommittee on the judiciary, which he headed. And our main message to the committee, it was the Congress's fault. They're blaming immigrants, they're blaming everybody. Of course, they're part of it, but the main reason that we've had so much undocumented immigration since the 1910s is the role of Congress in terms of not providing adequate opportunities for legal entry, but having a high demand, high use, and high profitability. And that just continued in different circuits over the years and even to the present in many ways. It doesn't explain everything, but that's the majority, that's the main issue. And the more we criminalize migration, which I guess all nations, if they want to, they do that. But in our case, we drive the whole system more underground. So the underground system becomes more necessary to the whole process, which puts immigrants at jeopardy, makes it more expensive for us to manage, as opposed to letting people have opportunity for legal admission before they even get to the border, in the countries of origin, and a variety of other ways that people might enter. And then, doing things at the border that have to be done. But that would really be a big factor. Well, the Congress has never passed anything like that except for under Reagan. He was able to get legislation to enable undocumented immigrants to arrive here and stay here.
And what drew you to that area of research when you were a student?
Yeah, I had Professor Ralph Guzman, political science, who worked on a big study on Mexican Americans in American society in the early or late 1960s. And they published a book. And I was just fortunate to be a student assistant. He took me on my first flight ever. We went to Delano and just really mentored me in big ways and told me about a grant. He knew I had an interest in migration and mentioned about Julian Zamora's grant that he got from Ford Foundation and suggested I consider that. And Joan Moore, who was a co-author of the book that they did on the Mexican Americans, a great scholar too, wrote a letter of recommendation for me. He did, and a couple other folks. And I was admitted to graduate school at Notre Dame and got my master's and Ph.D. there. So,
was having kind of studied international migration, was there always something in the back of your head that appealed about coming to Texas, a place that's situated right on the border, or?
Not really, maybe just the opposite.
Okay.
I remember one time I was walking on campus with the chair of the economics department, and I was mumbling something about things I didn't like, and he said, "Stop me." He says, "Gil, where are you?" I said, "What do you mean? We're on campus." "Where are you, Gil?" "At UT campus, Texas." "Think plantation." I got his message.
Was that the first time you'd heard someone refer to UT as plantation?
Well, I wasn't referring necessarily to UT, but just state of Texas, in that way. Because whatever it was I was telling him, I guess he figured that that could be a tragedy for me down the road.
So was that a hard thing for you to kind of get past when you had was that something you considered, I guess,
Well,
when you
once
had
upon a
this?
time, I used to be a long-haired crazy hippie in California,
Sure.
and demonstrator, activist, and organizer. We started the first student organization in California campuses, I think, in terms of the Chicano movement days at East LA Community College. As a bad boy in high school, got thrown out for a while. I had to go to junior college first and then transferred to Cal State LA. And we had MASA at Mexican Student Association at East LA College, and then at Cal State LA we started United Mexican Students. And then later on it became MECHA, Movimiento Estudiantil. That's Slan. Anyway, so that was, I got really active with the farm workers movement here, working with gangs in my neighborhoods that I grew up in, working with the Catholic Youth Organization later in LA and Santa Monica. So it became very hardcore activists. We met with Black Brown Unity Conference, things of that sort, with Michael Carmichael. I remember having my camera out taking pictures about where you're at, distance-wise, and his guards behind him, these tall guys, later came around while he was talking and pulled my camera and pulled the thing out of the
Film?
yeah, the film out. I was pissed, but a skinny little guy, you guys were tall, big, and he went behind, got behind Carmichael. And after a while, they put a jacket on him without him even knowing, and they moved him out. And he was struggling with them. So I calmed down at that point. Figured these guys, they do what they think they have to do. I don't know what they're doing, but it was interesting. Brown Unity Conference, Black Brown Unity. So there's a whole range of activities that I had an opportunity to participate in. We visited a California, not House of Representatives, but assemblyman, and we were pushing to get financial assistance for students, low-income students, and he said exactly this way: "You mean by doing that, you want to put water in the milk? Helping out poor people to go to school. And somehow we're going to dilute the quality of the student body." But he used that word, water in the milk. I felt like punching him, but couldn't do it.
What do you remember around what year that was?
Probably around 1969, 68, I think.
Okay.
It was 67 or 68, yeah.
Okay.
A while back.
Uh-huh. And so what did your kind of activist background, how did that make you think about coming to UT? I mean, you said that.
Well, when I joined the faculty and eventually got tenure, I was the first person to get tenure since Americo Paredes got tenure. And I forgot the dates that he got tenure, but maybe 10 or 15 years prior. And also another, Ramon Saldivar got tenure too.
You're saying the first?
Yeah, we were the
Latino.
first two.
Okay.
Yeah, in the College of Arts and Letters.
Okay.
Not the first two ever, I think, but just in that period of time. There may have been somebody earlier, I don't know. Not that I was told. So the campus was pretty absent of Latino faculty. There were faculty in other colleges too throughout the campus, but not a whole lot, very few. So we were coming in at a very perfect timing in terms of trying to make change at UT. And we worked very hard at that and continued to in multiple ways, on campus, off campus, supporting the farm workers in Texas and the movement, fighting racial discrimination, segregation, immigration.
And did you seek out people like Dr. Paredes when you got to campus
Oh, yeah.
immediately? Did he seek? How did that?
Well, he's a great scholar, a really great mentor. Long history here. I actually met him at a conference, social science research conference, I think in San Antonio, and he was on a panel, and somebody started attacking him on the panel. I guess, kind of a conservative, non-Mexican American, and it was really ugly. Jose Limon, the student, was there too, a former student, I should say. It was embarrassing. The way this, I don't remember all the details, but it was really horrible. And I said, whoa, this is UT faculty. But on the other side of it, Texas has an interesting history. It's part of the South, but in many ways, it's an important institution, no matter what its history. And among all the colleges in the state, the prominent college or university. So I appreciated that. And like the faculty I was working with in the sociology department and other faculty that I met, there's some really good people here who want to make change, some presidents and administrators too. So I appreciated the fact that they were trying to also make change in an environment that's very resistant to change over the centuries.
Were there other Latino or Hispanic faculty in the sociology department when you started?
No.
No. Okay.
Jorge Bustamante left. He was from Mexico, and he went to Mexico City. Actually, he was doing work there at UNAM and then at the it's a private university, a very important one, Colegio de Mexico. Yeah. And so we stayed in touch all the years. And unfortunately, he passed last year.
And so how did you, so you come to UT, you're in the sociology department, there's no other Latino or Hispanic faculty. How did you kind of find community on campus? Did you
there were faculty in other departments and other places who got hired after, and some who have been around for a long time in pharmacy and other departments. So I got to meet these folks and the education, College of Education, and there was a faculty member in political science, Armando Gutierrez. So there were, one here, one there, one in various places, and we all kind of hooked up and supported each other and gave advice and counsel. And
was there a formal organization or anything where you could get connected, or was it pretty informal?
Well, it was pretty informal, but through Mexican Studies, that's where we connected a lot of activities and did a lot of things together. Yeah.
Are there any Mexican-American studies events or anything that sticks out to you that was particularly helpful in kind of getting to know people?
Well, we had conferences and meetings and annual lectures, and that was really useful. And they're still, I believe, still going on that way. That was real. The things in the community that we did with arts organizations and community-based organizations. For the farm workers, I brought a good friend, he passed too, for the farm workers, Antonio Rendine from South Texas, and brought him up here. And he actually gave a lot of material for the library. He eventually took some out, but it still remained from the organization. He was really, really brilliant. Took it to Mexico City for a conference that Jorge Bustamante had organized, and it's really sad that he passed too. We had a meeting in San Antonio where the president, Echeverria, was coming to give a joint address before the Congress, and his first stop was in San Antonio. And Jorge called me, I was in South Bend, and asked me to go down to San Antonio. Well, at that time, I wasn't flying around the world, right? Just come the next morning. And it's a very unusual request for me. And I was sick. And I woke up in the next morning and I said, I swear that was so hard to call me. Let me check. And I put some notes down. And I just knew I had to go to a hotel downtown San Antonio. So I got a flight and flew down there and gave my name. They didn't have my name in. And then he gave me someone else's name. They called them. Yeah, he's supposed to come here. They gave me a room. Anyway, in the meeting, it was like comparable to the Secretary of Exterior Relations. Can't remember his name now, and a number of officials from Mexico. From here, they went to Washington, D.C., gave a joint address before the Congress, went to Chicago, and then to Los Angeles. But we organized a meeting with him and had a lot of activists come in. It was a pretty intense meeting because they're still mad about the shooting of the students in Mexico City, and various other things too. And it was a very intense meeting. But I got a really great photograph of Antonio Arendain and the president looking at each other, arguing. Great photograph, yeah.
And so did you go down there with kind of your activist mindset to kind of protest and let them...
Mexico City?
No, to San Antonio to see Echeverria.
No, we actually met.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was one of the organizers of the meeting.
Okay.
I'm the one that did the Latino invitations, or Chicano invitations. Yeah, it was a very historic meeting. I remember I called Ernesto Galarza, and he screamed at me and yelled at me. I knew him because of Julian Zamora. He'd been to Notre Dame, and great activist, scholar, and writer, and union organizer. And he, what are you doing there, Gil, in San Antonio, advocating for the president of Mexico? Don't you know what he's done? And but he knew me, so it was okay. But it was a great experience.
And that was while you were getting your Ph.D. at Notre Dame when that...
Yes,
okay.
Right. So that was good. Jose Angel Gutierrez was there, and some great leadership was there.
Okay.
From Texas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so you between when you started as CMAS director and when you started at UT as a faculty member, there were like 15-ish years. Did you always kind of know when you came to UT that you wanted to have a leadership role within CMAS?
What happened, I got invited, and they initially wanted to give me a joint appointment. I didn't want a joint appointment. I wanted in sociology, but I wanted to have a connection to CMAS. And so that's how they fixed it up. And then we've had various people. There's acting directors, and then we were able to hire Rudy de la Garza from Colorado College. And he came down and was the director, and then I was associate director, and so just got more involved that way. But always wanted to see that unit grow and be strong and stable. So it's very connected that way in terms of the lectures and students and education programs or the classes. So I had some of my classes were National Records and Record Society. It was a sophomore class.
Did it, when you came to UT, you said you wanted to see it be strong and stable. Did it feel strong and stable when you came to UT?
Well, they had acting directors, but they were doing their best as far as I could tell, and they were instrumental in getting me hired too. Advocating. So it was a much smaller unit then. It wasn't multiple units. It's just one unit. College of Liberal Arts, supportive. And we had other connection with African American Studies, and also with the, ¿cómo se llama? She's a friend right now. She's retired. Asian, was it Asian? Middle Eastern? Dolores, tu amiga.
GOP? For the graduate school?
Middle Eastern Studies, I believe. Yeah. Because the offices were there.
All the Mexican American Studies, Middle Eastern Studies, African American, they're all in the same.
The African American Studies was a different location. They moved out, but yeah, but we all stay connected in different ways. Okay. So we had I got a call from a legislator who asked me to submit a budget for funding, additional funding, because we were underfunded. And he, Barrientos. And send it to him, and then send the president and other people what I sent them, because what had happened is UT already submitted their budget. It was going through hearings, and they had to do an amendment to put it in, and the guy was able to get it through. And then Senate had already passed their budget, so they had a joint meeting, and it came through.
That was for an amendment for specific funding for the Center for Mexican American
Right,
Studies.
but I called the director of African American Studies. She wasn't on campus, and she was out somewhere else. And she thanked me, and we included them too. So we each got, I think, $250,000 each, or $500,000, and it was permanent.
Mm.
So,
What year was that?
oh boy,
Sorry. The hardest question. Were you director when that happened?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I'm sorry, I just
So 1990s at some point?
It was early 1990s.
Early 19, okay.
yeah. But that was, you know, I had a building down just south of campus on 17th and Guadalupe. I still own it. I have an art gallery there, Galeria Sin Fronteras. Most of the time I call it Galeria Sin Dinero. But we had a commercial art gallery there, and I ended up sponsoring an event there and invited people from the legislature. I invited the president, vice president, others too, and I apologized for them for how we had to do it. I said, we didn't even have enough money to pay our phone budget. Budget for for phone costs. He said, don't worry about it. You did the right thing, and you kept us informed, he said. So they came down too. I had more legislators at that event than the university did when they sponsored an event on campus at the big campus place by the stadium. They have events there all the time.
The Alumni Center? No.
Texas Access, where they meet?
Texas Access?
Yeah. Is it where they meet? The Texas Access? That building across from the stadium?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we have more legislators.
Why do you think they were so drawn to your event? Because of how the amendment process?
We know a lot of them.
You knew
and of course, the university knows them too, but I guess they have so many different callings. And but I went to the event on campus here, and we actually had more legislators at our event. But yeah, so eventually they worked it out. They modified the budget, and they kept it in.
To go quickly backwards before we get into your time as director, Maggie had mentioned beforehand that your name had came up in the Chicanos Interesados en Comunicación conference in the 1970s, and that you had been instrumental in bringing Felix Gutierrez here for that. Do you remember anything about the role you played in that?
Well, I remember that happening. I don't remember the conference itself. I'm sorry. It's been so I have to go back and look at papers, files. But Felix was an administrator at Cal State LA when I went to school there. Very supportive of the students. And at one time, he used to be a student body president there. And so we became real close. I ended up later hosting a reception for him and his wife at my mother's house when they were getting married. And we were together when what became his wife walked by us, and Felix, I told her to sit down next to me, and Felix said, no, sit over here. They ended up getting married and became good friends. So really, really, both great people. And he's been supportive of many, many students over the years. And they live in Pasadena now. And so we stayed in touch all these years. He went to Stanford to teach there for a long time. And on my way to Notre Dame, as graduate students stopped there and visited with him and his wife. And so just stayed in contact over the years. And to the present. Yeah. So we had him and Jorge Schmidt and others kind of visit UT. And Jorge Schmidt eventually got a position here. And it was a good conference. Yeah.
The way the story was told to me is that you kind of managed to get funding for Felix to come to UT for this conference under the guise that he would be potentially considered for a faculty position, even though maybe he had told you that he would never leave California. So it sounds like you were kind of good at, working the system a little bit to make
Well,
things happen.
I tried different ways. When I went back to Notre Dame, for example, you had to, write a grant to foundation. I knew a lot of people in foundations. And I know if I went through the regular process, they would tell you, no, we have something else going on, or, wait in line or whatever. So I called my friends. I said, invite me to submit a grant. Send me an email. And then I couldn't get stopped. So we were very successful in raising money at Notre Dame.
Okay. What were you raising money for at Notre Dame? Was that did they have a center?
I was recruited there as assistant professor and also as the founding director of the Institute for Latino Studies.
Okay. Yes.
And we raised about over $30 million in a variety of different things. But Notre Dame's name was a big factor, private university. And
Oh. Yeah.
So that was real helpful.
Well, I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask about, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, was, why did you decide to take the CMAS director position? And once you had the position, what did you hope you could achieve in that role?
Well, I took it, Rudy de la Garza was the director, and I was the associate director. So, I spent a lot of time there, and Rudy's the one who really convinced me to take that position. Before that, when he could go to a conference at Stanford, and I went in his place, and a group of us met who were directors of centers around the country, including the Puerto Rican Studies Program, Frank Bonilla. And we had a dinner at a restaurant outdoors, and this lobbyist, Mexican American lobbyist, activist too, was down there, and he was sent by someone from the Ford Foundation who was interested in getting a unit established, a national unit, but they wanted to do it back east. And so I tried to go the other direction, and so we're pushing for that and start talking about Washington, blah, blah, blah. And we had interesting experience with that. I have to find the photograph of that meeting too. Long story short, what happened is I came back and told Rudy, you need to call the directors of the 5 centers that were there, including ours, or 4 centers, UCLA, Stanford, Puerto Rican Studies Center, Texas. Yeah, those are the 4. And start talking to each other, because when the funding comes, they look at us as just regional, not national. And you guys need to get together. Well, we ended up having a meeting at Stanford. Stanford hosted, and we created the Inter-University Program for Latino Research. And at that point, it was a big factor in that, and we had a great meeting. To the credit of people who went there, the directors, and to their credit, it got established. But it was kind of my idea initially, and after that, stayed connected that way. And then I became director. After Frank Bonilla, it went from Stanford to Puerto Rican Studies, and then it came to Frank when he retired, wanted me to direct it. So I ended up being director of it here after I stepped down from the directorship here. And also, I was still working with Latino USA at that time. To answer your question, you might want to repeat your question.
No, yeah, I mean, so you, so as assistant director, you were assistant director when you were kind of orchestrating the IUPLR.
Yes. Well, when we first initiated it, then I became director, and when I was director, I became director. We got IUPLR started at Stanford, and I was still associate here. And then later, after Rudy stepped down and I became director, IUPLR had been established.
Yes.
Yeah. And then later, I was no longer director, working at Latino USA, and then after that on my own, we ended up, they appointed me as IUPLR director.
Okay.
And so I ran out of here, and then I moved it to Notre Dame. Everybody that worked with me came with me back to Notre Dame.
Okay, so you went as assistant director, you were helping to put together IUPLR, then you became CMAS director, then after you were CMAS director, you became the executive director of IUPLR
Later, yes.
after CMAS
Yeah.
director. Okay.
Not directly right after, but a bit later.
Okay, later. Okay. So when you as the associate director, you had already kind of helped make this big project happen. When you became the director, did you have a vision for what you hoped to accomplish?
Well, it's, University of Texas is a leading institution, and for Latinos, a very important institution as well, not just in the state of Texas, but internationally and nationally. So we just figured we had a role to play in helping unify the Latino community throughout the country and beyond our borders. And so that was a real big factor of what we were trying to do, Rudy and myself and others, is to have this really strong capability to not only spread our messages and spread the idea of the importance of Latino education, but also the importance of the work that we were doing. So through libraries, through research projects, through funding, through scholarship programs. We got a scholarship program for students who go to Mexico City. It came out of that meeting. Later, Jose Antonio Gutierrez really worked it and finalized that work with Jorge Bustamante. And we had conferences in Mexico, and we had conferences in the U.S. We started Latino, an annual conference that was held. First one was held here. Or no, was it here? Yeah. The second was in New York City. No, the first one was New York City. The second was here, and various other parts of the country. We added more organizations to the organization, expanded from 4 to 5, 6, and then to 10 and 12. So it's still in existence.
Yeah. And did you know when you started as CMAS director, did you know that you would want to start a radio program like Latino USA? Did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I had no clue. Going to Latino USA, this young woman who worked at KUT approached me, and she had worked with, Linda Fragoso, on the radio program. She did an hour-long program, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then that ended, and this young woman came and approached me about doing something like that, which sounded very interesting. And I talked to other folks, and she was already talking to her folks that she worked with here at the KUT. And so she really is a person who kind of lit the fire, if you will. She ended up working for a short period of time. I don't know how we weren't able to keep her, but she was very, very talented. But it's to her credit that this initiative began. And then
This is Linda Fregoso, or this
no,
is
there's Felton.
Yolanda?
Yolanda Felton.
Okay.
Yeah, Yolanda Felton. And so we continued the conversation, and we thought, let's not do a local program, let's do a national program. And so everybody's in agreement, and I was able to talk to friends and foundations. Cristina Cuevas, one of them, Ford Foundation, and other folks at the foundation. And Elaine Salazar, who was a graduate student here in the College of Finance. She worked at at NPR as a trainer. So now she's a graduate student. And Elaine, I wrote a proposal, and she rewrote it. I did more like a sociological proposal, and she did more of a kind of media proposal. Well, the same proposal, same idea, but she just got the right wording and hit the right spots. It really made a difference. And we got a grant the first time we submitted the proposal, not only to Ford Foundation, but also to the NPR
Corporation for Public Broadcasting or NPR? Oh, okay.
Not NPR. Was it NPR? Yeah. National Public Radio.
NPR. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
NPR. I said NPR. And then we got support too from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the time in those competitions, people don't get them the first time, second or third time. And we were very fortunate. I traveled the country to talk to various people who were directors of programs, journalists, and they thought it was a great idea. We have when I went to Seattle for a conference meeting that these people were going to be attending, I was able to get a hotel room. First, they said they didn't have any rooms, even though I had a reservation. So they put me in a penthouse at a great hotel. And
Wait, where was this?
in Seattle.
In Seattle.
Yeah, so I had 2 bedrooms, kitchen, living room, 2 sit-down areas in the living room. So when these guys came, they're established people in the radio industry. They're like looking like, where'd you get this room? But we had good conversation. They were very helpful, gave good advice and counsel. And from that and those kinds of meetings, we had already attracted, I think, Maria Martin, Maria Hinojosa, and ended up hiring Vidal Guzman. And I wanted to stop at that point, though, because with Maria Martin and Maria Hinojosa coming, and our connection with the KUT that we made and got support from, and CMAS support, we never would have achieved what we got if we didn't have them on board. They made the difference in their production and in their messaging that they gave. I gave them total freedom to do whatever they had to do on that. The only thing I can manage is the budget. But it's to their credit that the Latino USA just really, really took off. It was needed. I think the radio community knew that. And we had great talent. And it's to their credit that we achieved so much. Because I don't care how much money I raised, I don't care how much support we had here at UT in terms of physical support and technical support, things of that sort. Without their talent and their drive, we never would have achieved what we achieved. And when we get to a certain point, I'll tell you about some of those. Or if you like, I can transition to that now.
Well, I wanted to hear that you all conducted some focus groups. It sounds like as a part of kind of that pre-production.
And that was one of the focus groups I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
We had a mix of them in
Oh,
Washington,
so
D.C.
the focus groups were happening in that Seattle.
In different places around the country too.
Okay. Oh, another place.
Because there was some question, how can a Austin, Texas, do a national radio program? Sure. Like somehow if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, how can you do that? And we proved we could, but again, fortunately, because we were able to get the talent of people who had experience already too, to their credit.
Was that a question you had? I mean, you were presented with this idea. You didn't really have a background in radio.
No background whatsoever.
So were you thinking like, I don't know if this is going to be possible, or you're like, no, it's a great idea. We'll make it work.
We'll work it. We'll just find it. And fortunately, it came through. I think Maria got calls too, and other folks that we called her, and she may have called Maria Hinojosa. I'm not sure exactly how that. Don't recall the details, but they had a good reputation, and so getting people to participate in Latino USA was a really great asset to the organization, and to the focus groups too, in terms of people who came in about marketing or production, things of that sort. And we had great support here by KUT, Bill Jorda and his team. I mean, amazing support. He was really a wonderful person, and his staff gave us excellent support and service, and they're very, very, very open with us, letting us do what we had to do, and not really meddling with all the details of things other than, certain production technical things, but really gave us a lot of freedom to do our work. And like I said, in turn, even though I was executive producer, I didn't interfere with the production at all. Never one time interfere with the production. I left it to the people, who had that experience. So I remember having, in Washington, D.C., a meeting with a fellow who, I couldn't remember his name, and I tried looking it up, I couldn't find it. He headed a business radio program at that time. It was really the most widely watched and popular. Big name.
Marketplace or no?
It may have been Market. I just don't recall.
Okay.
I'm sorry. But and he was the executive producer, and he said, Gil, I told him, no background. He said, don't worry about it. Everything you just described in terms of getting the location, the facilities, the KUT supporting it, and the money, I said, you do what you're supposed to do. So don't worry about that. So he gave me a little more support, because people question that, and I think Maria Martin too, and other folks a little nervous about that. But again, that's why I entrusted what they were doing, and knew that they had the talent to do what they did, and give them credit for what we achieved. It's to their skills and hard work and vision that Latino USA progressed as well as it did.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big opportunity when we went to, I hope I'm not jumping too far, we went to Washington, D.C. After all the preparation, things of that sort, we were ready to attend the NPR reception and conference. And got support from Bill Jordan's marketing people, and we were able to get some things that he bought from Mexico, on the trip he took. And we were able to get attached to the NPR reception toward the end of the reception. They let us come on stage with that too, which was nice of them. What happened, though, is that I had a friend who was a former head of the women's division of Labor Department, it was a separate women's labor program for government. And a good friend of hers was a good friend of mine, so I knew them for a long time. We did things together. And then she became head of the external relations for the White House when Clinton was there. So I called her and asked her, is there any way President Clinton could come to the reception? Because it's our launch party for Latino USA too. And she, I don't know, he's already scheduled to go somewhere else, but I'll see if I can change it. And she did, but she said, one thing you cannot do, you can't tell anyone that if he decides to go, that he's coming until we give permission. Maybe 2 weeks before, you could tell CPB and NPR that that's happening. But you can't publicize it, and you can also have to wait a week before you actually announce it. And people didn't believe me when I told them the president was going to be coming. And so when we did the Sequoia Room, this hotel in a really popular place in Washington, where they have the reception, and we distributed our gifts and things like that were there. And when the meeting started, they cleared out the room and let anyone in that big area. And then he set up ways to pass these through for security. And when we started, the two heads of departments, transportation, Federico Peña, and also Henry Cisneros. So I was on the stage first, and then they came up on the stage, and they're playing music. And then they started music for the president to come. So he marched in with his folks that he had appointed in government officials, legislators, etc. And he got on stage, and so, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. So then he marches up and gets on, and he's doing this, thing for like 5-10 minutes. Everybody's screaming and yelling and real happy. And we're the new kids on the block. We're there on the stage. Two other initiatives that started before for Latino programming in radio and failed. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure it was their fault or they didn't get the support or whatever. But so we're there with that history. And then the president turned around and looked at me and said, "Aren't you going to introduce me?" I looked at him like, "Who do you think you are, the president of the United States?" I did. Want me to do it again? He just smiled and turned around and went back to the podium. All I had to do was walk to the podium, ladies and gentlemen, the president of the United States. But what did I know? But he was good. And I brought I don't know if I've given you a copy yet, but I have a copy of his presentation.
Yeah.
It was a great presentation. The first time the president had ever addressed NPR or CPB. So, of course, they're thrilled. And people told us, be happy if you hit 30 stations your first year. We hit 110 stations that first year. So,
Why do you think it was such an instant success like that?
Again, the quality of the programming. Yeah. It didn't hurt to have President Clinton there, too, because it gave us a lot of attention. But I think public radio was ready for a program like that, too, actually. Just given all the things that were going on in the country. And I'm happy that they were able to come in on it at that time. And CPB, because of the success and no longer with Latino USA, CPB wanted to recruit me. I shouldn't even talk about it because it's private.
Okay.
But I said, no,
Yeah.
need to stay with the academic world.
And how did so you get the news that the president is going to be at your launch party. I'm assuming you told Maria Martin and the rest of the team that. How did they react? Like, what did they say?
They were very happy, yeah. All of us were. I wish Maria Martin and Maria Jose could have been on stage too, but that wasn't my thing. That's the president's office did all that.
Okay.
But
so the president's office said you're going to be the one that's on stage with him. And
they controlled that part of it.
And do you remember anything? I mean, I've read the news articles about what he said, but was there anything that you felt like was particularly impactful about kind of how he spoke about Latino USA?
He spoke about public radio, and he really, really, he thanked us for being there, for inviting him, and then went into a thing on public radio, talked a little bit about his history with public radio too, and I think it was very supportive of public radio and made statements that way. And he wished us best in success. So, it was a great session. I mean, I went to drinks with some legislators after, and they were just thrilled. They were like, "How did you do this?" Well, I got a friend who's director of external relations, and she helps a lot, and I've known her for years, and she became Secretary of Labor too, the regular Labor Department. And she's retired now. She was a great asset. Really made a big difference.
So outside of bringing in the president, what did kind of your day-to-day look like in terms of your Latino USA work? Were you focused on getting grants or marketing, or what was kind of
both? Yeah, working with Villa Guzman in marketing, trying to get the public aware of the program. To get other Latino organizations to support Latino USA in their communities and get the word out about Latino USA to build the listenership. One thing that we did that really Maria and Martin did was that we were able to get almost a proportionate amount of programming related to the diversity of Latinos in the country. That was kind of our broad goal. But in the end, if you look at the programming after, it's all finished for the whole year. The good part had to do with like the 80-some% that were Mexican American, and we didn't do it by percentage. That wasn't the goal, but the idea was to be diverse, and we were real close to it that way. I was real happy about that because people would wonder, well, how can a Mexican American program do a whole Latino thing? And we did, and continue to over the years. So I was real proud of the staff for doing that.
would you say there was I guess why do you think in this moment there was a need for a show like or a program like Latino USA? Was there a lack of coverage around the
Well,
Latino
it's like a
community?
coverage, the importance of putting attention to Latinos in terms of this is a national group, not just a regional group in the Southwest or East Coast or uh, Chicago, and putting the Southeast in the map, and to get our voice out, and one, first person voice too. That was important. So one of the goals to get people who are the journalists to ask the right questions and be with the right people to get the right answers in terms of our history, our experiences, our needs, and what we wanted to see happen in terms of policy. So there's a variety of things like that surfaced, and that was a big factor in starting Latino USA, is to get that message out. Yeah.
And when did you, because you said that kind of initially maybe the conversations weren't that, it wasn't initially planned to be a national program, but there was kind of maybe a moment where you kind of said, oh, maybe we should try and be national? Or were you
No,
pretty much from the
no,
outset, this is going to be,
it's national. Yeah,
okay,
that was the goal.
okay.
Yeah, it started. Initially, KUT had a local station, and that was good. But when Yolanda came, we talked. We said, really, we need to have a national program, and she agreed too. And so did her. I can't remember his name. But
John Hansen.
yeah, John.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Uh-huh.
And so they pushed that, and we were all in agreement with that. And the good thing is that we were able to get the support of NPR. So the big factor. And CPB.
And so the program that was that KUT had before, are you referencing the Mexican American experience?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And was having that program, obviously it didn't exist anymore, it ended at some point in the 80s, but was having kind of the history of that program, did it help you at all kind of pave a path or did it help kind of pave a path for Latino USA in any way, would you say, or did you?
Not directly.
Yeah.
At least to my knowledge, unless, I can't talk to Maria, but maybe Maria and Josa. But I have a feeling it was just the fact that it preceded us was a good thing, and it was successful here, and so we wanted it to be successful nationally. So in that manner, at least for me. So I wasn't that, I just don't recall exactly if it had a direct impact or not, other than Yolanda and
John.
And John, yeah.
So is that because that was kind of one of the questions I was curious about. How did they know to come to the Center for Mexican American Studies for support on a radio program? Was it because of the Mexican American experience, or do you remember how they were like, okay, we should seek out Dr. Cárdenas and CMAS to help us build this program?
No, we initiated it.
Uh-huh.
We contacted.
You contacted KUT?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually it was two ways. I think Yolanda talked to us privately, and she wasn't probably supposed to, and kind of fed the idea, and then set up a meeting with folks, and then we just worked together to say, yeah, let's do this. Yeah. And I told them that I had a good possibility of getting funding from foundations in New York, which that was a big help too. And then just started working on it and got this proposal out.
So, okay, so that's interesting. So basically what happened was Yolanda had like an informal conversation with you that here's a kind of an idea, and then you all presented it formally to a broader group at KUT.
Yeah, with getting advice and counsel. Yeah, we ended up talking, and they were pushing for that too. So we just kind of met together with the same interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, you alluded to kind of your connections within to a New York-based group. Is that the Ford Foundation?
That was the Ford Foundation, yes.
Okay.
I knew people in the Ford Foundation, from presidents, vice presidents, and various, what do you call them? program
program
officers.
officers.
Sorry about my mind. Yeah. So I have been involved with IUPLR projects too that we got funding from Ford and other foundations, Rockefeller and numerous others. So I knew a lot of people in the foundation world at that time.
How did you form those relationships initially, or how did you know those folks?
Well, in approaching folks that with IUPLR trying to get for research projects, conferences, some of them I knew before they went to the foundation, before they were recruited there. Tomás Frausto, for example, is a scholar. Several more academics. Cristina Cuevas, who we recruited to come here after she left Ford. And we're still friends. You know, we just visited her last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hope to talk to her as well.
Yeah, she's back in the West Coast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. She and her husband, Gilberto,
Okay.
musician, drummer.
Okay. Are you okay for another 20 minutes or
yeah,
so?
fine, yeah.
Keep going? Okay.
I hope I'm not too boring.
No, you're great. It's great. It's super informative. So,
I'm gonna take
yeah,
drink of water
good
for a
water
second.
break time.
Yeah.
So, I guess I have a few more questions. You said KUT was supportive. You had the support from the Ford Foundation, from NPR broadly. What would you say, though, were some of the biggest challenges you faced? Were there any people who were resistant to the idea of this type of program, or challenges?
Well, we were questioned by a woman that already left the Ford Foundation, was there for a long, long time and really supportive of Latino things. She wanted to set up a national organization, and again, they were with IUPLR formation prior to that meeting I mentioned about.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one that supported that lobbyists to come down. So we had some conversation about that, and they questioned the fact that can you really be national if you're just a regional group? Well, New York City is not the nation either. It's regional too. But in their mind, it's the nation. So that was kind of like a little ongoing, not open conflict, but just conversational kinds of things and questions that they had, and we had questions about them for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But we worked it out.
Mm-hmm. What about within? So it seems like KUT was super excited to kind of have this program. What about UT? Did you feel like you had or needed support from the college or at the university, kind of broadly, or did you hear from?
We got it. I mean, everybody was happy that it got launched and happy that it's getting broad attention and great success. They're happy with the talent that we had on board in terms of Maria, the two Marias and others. Biel Guzman did a great job marketing. So I think everybody was pleased about that. I don't recall anybody really fighting with us or challenging us in any significant way. My staff challenged me a lot. They weren't comfortable with me being executive producer.
How would they challenge you about that?
Well, it was just a question I didn't have a background in radio. But again, I always told them, I'm leaving it to you to do. Funding, I'll do that. And I'll try to support you in any way I can and get you support. But, I'm not going to meddle with the production at all. The KUT staff understood that, but I think some of the Latinos were a little not happy.
Would they explicitly tell you, you don't have a background, or could you just kind of tell from the way they?
Yeah, it was conversations. I don't want to get into a lot of the details on that, but yeah, there was a little push and shove and arguing, and but it just kind of goes with the picture, I guess, or the story.
Yeah.
But they were doing what they had to do in terms of the production. So.
And was there a moment where it felt like it all kind of clicked for everyone, and they kind of accepted that you were going to work?
I rarely got mentioned, and I still don't get mentioned much. But that's not my career, and it's not something that they did that all their lives. So I kind of gave them a green light to do that over the years. But I know what I did. And to me, and it happened, so I'm satisfied.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to have that kind of attention necessarily. I appreciate it, but it did what it had to do, and I did what I had to do. And then after we got launched and stabilized, I stepped down. Because I had a whole lot of other things. I was working a lot with the Smithsonian. One of my great moments in life, I guess, the way I think about what I've achieved is an institution builder. Latino USA, Galerías Sin Fronteras in the Arts, the Inter-University Program for Latino Research, the University of Notre Dame Institute for Latino Studies, and the Consejo Gráfico, Consortium of Latino Print Studios. Helped form all of them in their formation. And at the Smithsonian, the Latino Museum, I was on an oversight committee with Felix Gutierrez, who invited me to that when he was working at the foundation for the Journalism Foundation. I forgot the name of it, but the most important foundation, I guess, in journalism. In Washington. Anyway, he called me, said, Gil, I got appointed to this committee, but I really feel you should be on it. So he persuaded me to join, and then he stepped out, and it was the oversight committee. No, it wasn't the oversight committee. It was the committee to look at the, what was it called? I don't recall the exact name. I can't forget that.
Of what?
At the Smithsonian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The second committee I got appointed to later after we turned in a report. It was called the Oversight Committee. The first committee was, hopefully I'll think of the name before we finish. But to look at the role that Latinos played at the Smithsonian, how the Smithsonian might change, its leadership, directors of museums, curators, research staff, a whole range of activities. And just the contracting of Latino companies, being contracted with Smithsonian employees, things of that sort. We issued a report, and it was really scaling. It was really slamming the Smithsonian tour. And the secretary, McAdams, accepted all our recommendations. One of them included Latino Museum. And then they appointed an oversight committee to look at the implementation of the recommendations. I got appointed to that committee, along with another member who ended up joining the Smithsonian. We had
Willful Neglect Committee?
Willful Neglect was the first thing. Thank you. That came out in 1994, and the sort of shared vision was more positive. It came out in 1997, and we called for the establishment of a Latino Center. This Secretary Michael Heyman asked us not to push the museum as the central thing. And so we were talking, and a small group of us with him, and I said, well, okay, we're not going to give up on the museum, but we'll just put it as one part of everything we're going to be addressing. And so as a transition thing, we wanted a center created that works throughout the institution under the secretary's office to work all the different unit museums to get more Latino activity in all the museums. And then we ended up making a recommendation for museum, among many other recommendations. And
What year was this?
97?
97. Okay.
No, 94 was the first one, the Willful Neglect one.
Okay.
But the one that really put out more on that was the 97.
Okay.
And then later, some of the congressmen and some of the folks in Washington were able to kind of continue the initiative privately among themselves, and they brought it to the Congress, and the Congress passed legislation that enabled the establishment of a committee to look at the establishment of a Latino museum. And I got appointed to that. So it was.
So you were, at least for the first committee, where you were still CMAS director when you were serving on the
Yeah.
Willful Neglect? Okay, got it. And then the journalistic organization, the Freedom Forum
That's the name of the Felix Gutierrez.
of the Felix
Yeah,
Gutierrez.
he was a program officer there.
And so did you stay active after you left Latino USA, did you stay active in kind of journalistic organizations like that, or was that the
No.
main one that you did?
No, I really didn't. I just happy Latino USA was there. So as I traveled the country, I was always promoting Latino USA and taking brochures and material. And it was already pretty well known at that point, but it's always good to continue pushing.
How did you when did you leave as executive producer? Did you leave right when you left as CMAS director, or did you stay in the role a little longer?
Honestly, can't remember. Sorry, I wish I could answer that. I think I was still director when I stepped down from the executive producer for Latino USA.
And when was there? Did you feel comfortable that Latino USA was in a good place at that point?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. Oh, when you hired Cristina Cuevas was when.
Yeah, she's willing to come down and become the executive producer. She was real good friends with Maria Martin and knew everybody, and so that was a real good point.
Yeah, and how important was it that she had this pretty deep knowledge of Latino USA from being the program officer at Ford Foundation?
Well, more so, because she also knew Maria Martin before that, and she was also involved with radio too, to a certain extent. So I think that was a real big factor for her to be chosen as executive producer. So we were thrilled that she was willing to come down. They got along really well initially, and then later on they broke up, and it was sad, but things happen.
Yeah. And I guess, do you, kind of more of a light question, do you have a favorite episode of Latino USA, or was there an episode that you were kind of most proud of that
Well,
came out?
obviously, very personal, I can't tell you the details, but I remember I was real thrilled in the first production they did. And later, they would be talking about different issues on the border. I remember that also lifted me. And then they talk about musicians and things that I didn't know that much about, and culture. And I thought that was excellent quality. They would create news too. Things that we didn't have in the regular news, and give insights about things. I really couldn't remember the exact details of each of the half-hour programs, but
Yeah. But you said you let kind of Maria Martin and Maria Hinojosa do their thing as kind of the editorial side of things.
Entirely.
But you must have, for example, if they're doing a story on immigration, you must have known people. Were you ever kind of helping them?
Yeah, they asked for references, things of that sort too, from time to time. But again, I wouldn't go tell them. I'd let them ask me, because I really didn't want to interfere with the production. Yeah.
And is that kind of how you would say your leadership style typically is, or was it specific to Latino?
I think it's often that way too. Like when we ended up having like 30-some employees at the Institute for Latino Studies on campus and in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., the IUPLR. And so we had a mix of employees, and I trusted them. As long as they reported and we knew what they were doing and they were following, the broad goals, I was happy with what they were doing, and let them come and ask if they needed additional assistance or advice and counsel. but I trusted a lot of folks that we hired. And in every area they worked in, they were smarter than me, technically or whatever it is they had to work in. And so I respected that. And I think that's something I've always wanted to do, no matter where I worked or what I did. And it's paid off. You let them, you support them doing what they know how to do best. So even though I'm the director or their boss, that didn't make me more important than what they were doing specifically. So, and to their credit, I got credit too. But it's really, most of the time when we had to do interviews on national radio or something like that, I had my associate director go and be the presenter.
Who was that?
Elder Brown-Gort.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from Mexico. Brilliant guy. He went back to Mexico later. He was here in the LBJ, and he got his master's there, and then I hired him to work with us, IUPLR. And then we got the job offer at Notre Dame. I told him I have to have these people come with me to work with IUPLR, so they came, and it's a great advantage we had when we went to Notre Dame to really hit the ground and get moving and be successful in getting grants, things of that sort. And he was a great spokesperson for the organization, so I try to utilize him as much as possible for that purpose. I remember in his office, Supreme Court Justice that's in the Supreme Court now, from Bartlett, is that her name?
Amy Coney Barrett?
Yes. She was on the faculty in the law school there. So I met her in his office, right next to my office. That's where I first met her.
Okay.
So he was really good in the community. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it sounds like your leadership style was a natural fit for Latino USA, and kind of you were able to, tap into the skills you had and getting kind of grants and making connections with folks like President Clinton, and then letting the editorial folks kind of do their thing and hiring talented people.
It might have been if I also had a radio background, I could have been maybe more helpful. I don't know. I mean, that's always
that's
the question. But I didn't want to interfere with them, so I trusted them to do what they had to do.
Yeah.
And to their, they were successful.
Yeah.
So I was just thrilled.
Mm-hmm. A couple more bigger picture questions we wanted to ask. One, how would you say you used your academic background to pursue kind of your cultural endeavors throughout your career?
Yeah. Well, in a multiplicity of ways. One of the goals I've always had is to have universities serve our community by bringing them into the university for events, conferences, meetings, lectures, trying to hire as many people as possible, not just in our programs, but other parts of the university. So make that connection, and then you have university resources that we have to enable them to do work in the community. Have CMAS do work in Austin or San Antonio, or things of that sort. Use our resources for that to host other groups that are forming arts organizations and have exhibits of their work here on campus, things of that sort. So making those kinds of connections, and then bringing folks in the community to academic presentations, lectures. That often just didn't happen just because they were lecture here and the communities out there. So try to make that connection as much as possible. And a lot of the work I did was work that was policy oriented. So I'll give an example. I joined MALDEF, Marsh American Legal Defense and Education Fund. I was on the board for many, many years, and they called me to join a lawsuit when the state of Texas passed legislation to prohibit undocumented school children from receiving tuition-free education. The legislature passed that, and we took them to court, or MALDEF did, and they had me as the opening expert witness in the case in I call it Waco, but Waco?
Waco, yeah.
Yeah. The federal district judge. The name's not coming right now. And it was a tough case. They had me on presenting questions from the plaintiffs, and then the defenders, state of Texas, questioning. But I don't think that was prepared because we really made a big impact. State of Texas lost. It went to the appellate court. They lost at the appellate court. It went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court cited my testimony in a major part of the decision.
Plyler versus Doe.
Plyler versus Doe was the case, yeah. Initially it was Doe versus Plyler, but after the state challenged it, it became...
When was that? Roughly?
Gil. I don't want to tell you the wrong
Okay, I can look
dates.
it up. I can look it up.
My apologies. Just so many things, but I was really proud of that and really happy. So that was the second thing. Besides testifying before the Rodino Committee, I also had a one-to-one with Senator Simpson. Remember the Simpson-Mazzoli bill? It got passed in '86. It took when Congressman Rodino introduced legislation in 1970. They didn't get it passed until 1986. And Senator Simpson was on the Senate side, and Congressman Mazzoli it became the Simpson-Mazzoli law. And
what role did you play in that?
Well, I mean, I tell you, testified at the committee, Rodino Committee, but then I had a one-to-one with Senator Simpson in Colorado College. And we disagreed. We had different takes on it. But he invited me to have a drink with him after. So we went to a bar, got along really well, invited me to this place in Wyoming. I didn't follow up on it, but really liked him. And at that point, I was already changing my views about the Republican Party because I knew Governor Bush and Al Gonzalez, who was his attorney there, and then later on ran for Supreme Court here and got on. My ex-wife and I were real close to him and his family. She was the padrina, or the godmother for one of the children. So we were real close that way, and so we did things together. They invited me to the White House several times when President Bush was there, and I used to like to joke around with President Bush frequently and liked him. I know he was criticized for some things, but his wife was real supportive of the arts. I was chair of the board of the oldest arts organization in the state of Texas, based here, and so she came to several events that we had, and got to meet him. I Michael Heyman, who's secretary of the Smithsonian, I invited him to come down here to one of our events, and he made presentation. Where was I going with that? Where did I start on that?
Michael Heyman was coming down.
Yeah, Michael Heyman came and presented.
Was Laura Bush involved somehow?
Oh, with the Bushes, yes. So I asked Al, I said, Al, Michael Heyman's coming. This is the day before. And I said, can we meet with the governor? He's Gil. I'll see what I can do, but I can't guarantee it. And it might be just in and out. I said, that's fine, So we went there, and he received us, liked us, kept on talking for like an hour and a half, way beyond what we thought we'd be. We thought we'd be there for 5 or 10 minutes, and got along really well. And
what did you talk about?
His father called him, and they told him, Dad wants you on the phone. Tell Dad I'll call him later. So, just a whole range of things, on the arts and culture and things of that sort. Governor Bush, when they had English-only initiatives, and some states were passing it. He said Spanish works well in the state. He didn't want anything to do with that. When the governor of California was doing what Trump and the governor here is doing now, trying to do a political agenda on immigration. Can't remember his name either. Bush threw a wrench in that, just kind of stopped it, nationally. When they had, there was things happening on the border, and one of the senators from either South Carolina, North Carolina, I can't remember where, was attacking. He defended Mexico. When the 10% plan, we got that passed here. Colleagues of mine initiated that. He supported that. He signed that too. So I got to know him and really liked him and trusted him. I was not Republican. My first political party was the Peace and Freedom Party, California. And I got appointed by him to a committee to White House Fellows Committee. They appoint people and put them in, the top positions in all the different units. And anyway, so I really admired him and liked to joke around with him and things of that sort. I got criticized by all my friends, and that time I had just moved to Notre Dame, so I didn't care, and I got to sit down with the chair of the Republican Party and other folks for dinner, just like 4 or 5 of us, informal. They knew my background, but we got along really well. We didn't agree necessarily on everything, but we got along well, and I could have a chance to talk to people rather than just being in a bar with my friends and not liking something, and we all talk the same thing, not liking this. I'm talking to people that I'm not a Don Quixote. I'm not going to change things by myself, but at least have that opportunity to hear them too, and they hear me. And so I really like that, and I was really happy to be on his National Election Committee for the Latino part. And when he got elected as president, I went to the White House for different events and things of that sort. Why am I talking about President Bush? Well, that meeting that we had here.
Yeah. To go back to the beginning of our conversation, was Bush governor when you were able to pass that amendment, getting kind of funding for the Center for Mexican American Studies? Do you remember?
No.
Okay. So you.
Well, maybe he was. Let's see. Honestly, I can't remember who was governor.
Okay, I was just curious if you had used that connection at all to kind of.
No.
Okay,
that wasn't. It was actually, the legislator from Laredo who got robbed in his car.
Is he current, or Cuellar?
Yeah, Henry Cuellar. He was a real big supporter. He's the one who really helped us with that legislation.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
was on the Appropriations Committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he introduced the legislation actually, or the amendment to the legislation.
Okay.
Yeah, really good guy too.
Oh.
Really liked him. I still do.
Yeah. Well, those are most of the questions I had. Is there anything else you wanted to get across about your time at UT or Latino USA? Anything else?
Well, one other thing is that just let you know that President Biden, when he was vice president, got a chance to meet me.
Okay.
At his house. We were on the commission to look at the feasibility of the Latino Museum, and that President Bush had appointed me to. They took off some of his appointee because he did it at the very end of his last term, and they took off some and replaced it. They had so many people appointed from the Senate, from the House, through those kind of connections, and he kept me on. Obama kept me on, I should say. Anyway, so we're at the house of Biden, and presentations are made, and the head secretary of housing was there, and other folks, and
was it Castro at that point? Or? Was it Castro at that point, or who was?
Maybe the Castro brothers. I can't remember who was
okay.
there, but I know Kenny Salazar was there, for example.
Okay.
He was Secretary of Interior.
Okay.
I think I said the wrong thing earlier. And our commission was under his administration. So that's why I saw him, and he was talking to all these folks. I don't want to interrupt them. And then I said, Kenny, do you know what? Corey Gill, my former professor. He gave me a big old hug. And then I wasn't getting in line to take a picture with Vice President Biden. But then the line went down, and I'm talking, and I said, well, I think I'll go take a picture of him. And I went to take a picture. You want to see him? I said, all right, I'll go say hi. So he's standing about 10 feet away, and he's looking at me, and he said, where are you from? I said, South Bend, Indiana. And he started walking up to me. He goes, Notre Dame? I said, yes, Notre Dame. He grabbed my shoulder and started shaking me. And he's saying, you tell Father Hesburgh I love him. We've traveled the world together. Father Hesburgh was the president of Notre Dame. And he's shaking me. And I tell people, you're Republican? No, it was a nice...
Sounds very like Biden.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I got a photograph of him.
Shaking you?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
No, but in the end, I'm still real happy that Maria Ineos is carrying the program today, and she has a great network of people she's working with. So I applaud her for all her good work, and not just there, but in other areas of journalism that she's been involved in prior and in the present. So all that adds to, Maria's passing and the recognition she was getting, well deserved. I was hoping to see her a couple of days before she passed, and we just miscommunicated with Elaine Salazar, who was real close with her. So we didn't have that chance, but I was very saddened when she passed, and really want to close this praising her and thanking her for all the good work that she did, and her commitment to journalism and her success with Latino USA. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Well,
I
thank you.
really appreciate it. This has been